The horizon of Titan stretched endlessly beneath the viewport of the UEF Vanguard, a frigid moonscape bathed in Saturn's amber glow. Commodore Elena Reyes stood with her hands clasped behind her back, her weathered face reflecting in the reinforced glass as she gazed at the frozen methane lakes below. The year 2447 marked humanity's furthest expansion into the solar system, and her outpost represented the edge of known space, until now. "Commodore," called a voice from behind her. "The final telemetry confirms it. The anomaly is definitely a corridor." Elena turned to face Lieutenant Nadia Kwan, her tactical officer. Kwan's dark eyes were bright with excitement, despite the exhaustion of 3 straight shifts, monitoring the strange spatial distortion they'd discovered just beyond Titan's orbit. "Are we certain it's not a natural phenomenon?" Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. Natural phenomena didn't arrange themselves in perfect geometric patterns. "No doubt, ma'am. Dr. Holt's analysis confirms artificial origin. The energy signatures suggest it's been there for millennia, dormant until now." Elena nodded slowly. "And we activated it?" "Yes, ma'am. When we sent the probe through last week," Kwan hesitated. "The data packets returning suggest it's a vast network, spanning at least 17 systems. We're calling it the Allurian Star Corridor." "Allurian?" Elena raised an eyebrow. "Dr. Holt's designation, based on glyphs the probe captured." Kwan handed over a tablet displaying intricate symbols, etched into what appeared to be a massive stone gate. "The xenolinguistics team believes Alluria translates roughly to Eternal Guardians, or perhaps Eternal Empire." Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with Titan's sub-zero temperatures. "Empires don't typically welcome uninvited guests." "There's more, Commodore. Dr. Holt has been analyzing signal echoes from deeper in the corridor. He believes they're communications, possibly warnings." "Warnings?" Elena straightened her uniform jacket. "About what?" "That's just it. He's not sure, but preliminary translations suggest references to collection and integration of other species." "Slavery," Elena said flatly. "That's Dr. Holt's assessment as well." Elena took a deep breath. 6 months into her command of the Vanguard, and she was potentially facing first contact with a species that enslaved others. She handed the tablet back to Kwan. "Call a senior staff meeting in 30 minutes, and get me a direct line to Earth Command." As Kwan left, Elena turned back to the viewport. Saturn's rings glimmered in the distance, beautiful and oblivious to the potential storm brewing just beyond their outpost. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now, they might have their answer, and it wasn't the one they'd hoped for. The conference room hummed with tense energy as Elena entered. Around the oval table sat the Vanguard's senior officers. Lieutenant Kwan stood as she entered, along with Dr. Isaac Holt, a lanky xenobiologist whose perpetual expression of wonder had dimmed somewhat since analyzing the Allurian data. Chief Engineer Omar Reyes, Elena's younger brother, was tapping calculations into his console, deep lines of concentration on his brow. "At ease," Elena said, taking her place at the head of the table. "Dr. Holt, start us off." The scientist nodded, his Adam's apple bobbing nervously as he activated the holographic display in the center of the table. A 3-dimensional map of the corridor network appeared, spreading like a web of glowing filaments between stars. "The Allurian corridor system is unlike anything we've theorized," Holt began, his voice gaining confidence as he slipped into scientific explanation. "It's not wormhole technology as we understand it. Rather, it seems to fold space in a manner that allows near-instantaneous travel between fixed points. Like a subway system," Omar suggested, "with stations at each star." "Precisely," Holt agreed. "But here's where it gets concerning." He zoomed in on one section, where multiple corridors converged at a central point. This nexus appears to be the origin point, What we believe is the Allurian home system. And these, he highlighted several endpoints that glowed red, show evidence of catastrophic stellar events, supernovas, mainly, but with unusual energy signatures. Engineered destruction? Elena asked quietly. Holt nodded grimly. It's a working theory. The timing of these events correlates with what appears to be periods of Allurian expansion. They destroy systems that resist, Omar said, his usual humor absent. Or perhaps after they've stripped them of resources, Holt added, including sentient populations. Elena leaned forward. You mentioned communications? Warnings? Holt hesitated. Yes and no. They appear to be recordings, echoing through the corridor network. Some are millennia old, based on radiation decay in the signal. They're fragmented, but consistent in content. Species announcing themselves, followed by silence, or in some cases, distress calls that abruptly end. A heavy silence fell over the room. So we've stumbled upon an interstellar empire with a habit of enslaving or annihilating other civilizations. Elena summarized. And we've announced our presence by sending a probe through their front door. That's the essence of it, yes, Holt confirmed. Earth Command's response? Quan asked. Elena's expression hardened. They've ordered containment protocols. No further exploration of the corridor until a diplomatic team arrives. That could take weeks, given our position. With respect, Commodore, Holt interjected. I don't believe we have weeks. The corridor has become increasingly active since our probe. Energy readings are spiking. Something or someone is noticing us. As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the ship. The table's display flickered, replaced by the bridge's emergency feed. Commodore, called the officer on duty. Massive energy surge in the corridor. Something's coming through. Elena was already on her feet. Battle stations, all of you, to your posts. This is not a drill. The bridge of the Vanguard was a flurry of controlled chaos when Elena arrived. Quan at her heels. The main view screen showed the corridor, a swirling vortex of blue-white energy that had been dormant for days, suddenly pulsing with activity. Status, Elena demanded, taking her command chair. Energy readings off the charts, reported the science officer. Dimensional aperture expanding to approximately 2 kilometers in diameter. Weapon status? All batteries charged and ready, Quan reported from her tactical station. But Commodore, our entire complement wouldn't make a dent in something that size. Elena nodded grimly. Defensive posture only. No provocative actions. She activated the ship-wide comm. All hands, brace for potential first contact scenario. This is not a drill. The corridor's mouth widened, space itself seeming to tear open as something massive began to emerge. First came a prow of gleaming, iridescent material, neither metal nor stone, but something organic and artificial simultaneously. It extended impossibly far, a vessel so vast it dwarfed the Vanguard like a whale beside a minnow. My God, someone whispered as the ship continued to emerge. It resembled no human design, sleek and predatory, with arcing structures that seemed to pulse with internal light. Smaller vessels, each still larger than the Vanguard, detached from recesses along its hull. It's a dreadnought, Omar's voice came over the comm from engineering. And those smaller ships are likely escort craft. Scan them, Elena ordered, fighting to keep her voice steady. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database, reported the science officer. They appear to be partially biological in composition, living ships. Dr. Holt's voice cut in from the science lab. Commodore, I'm detecting communication between vessels. It's the same linguistic patterns from the corridor warnings. Can you translate? A pause. Working on it. Their language has mathematical components that... The view screen suddenly flickered. The image of the alien armada replaced by a figure that sent a collective gasp through the bridge. The being appeared vaguely humanoid, but with proportions just wrong enough to trigger a sense of unease. Its skin had a translucent quality, showing hints of complex circulatory systems beneath. Multiple eyes, 4, arranged in a diamond pattern, regarded them with cold intelligence. "This is Commodore Elena Reyes of the United Earth Federation vessel Vanguard," Elena announced, rising from her chair. "We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic—" The being interrupted with a sound like crystal chimes, followed by perfectly accented English. "You chose war with humanity. Good luck surviving." The transmission cut off abruptly, replaced by the image of the dreadnought's weapons ports opening, like blooming flowers. "Evasive maneuvers!" Elena shouted. "All hands! Battle stations!" The Vanguard lurched sideways as the helmsman executed a hard burn, barely avoiding the first salvo of energy weapons. The shots streaked past, striking Titan's upper atmosphere and creating aurora-like disturbances. "Return fire," Elena ordered, gripping her chair as the ship shuddered under the strain of emergency thrusters. "Targeting escort vessels," Quan reported, her fingers dancing across the tactical console. "Firing solution locked." The Vanguard's railguns thundered, launching hypervelocity projectiles toward the nearest alien vessel. They struck with pinpoint accuracy and did absolutely nothing. The projectiles simply disappeared into the hull material without apparent effect. "No damage registered," Quan reported incredulously. "They're absorbing our attacks." A second volley from the alien fleet came closer, grazing the Vanguard's port shields. Warning lights flashed across the bridge as energy cascaded along the hull. "Shields at 60%, called the engineering officer. "Whatever they're firing, it's degrading our defensive matrix on contact." Elena's mind raced. They were outgunned, outmaneuvered, and facing technology far beyond their own. Conventional tactics would get them killed in minutes. "Proximity to Titan?" she demanded. 14,000 kilometers and closing," reported the helmsman. "Take us in. Use Titan's atmosphere as cover." "The atmospheric pressure will strain our structural integrity," Omar warned over the comm. "Better than being vaporized," Elena countered. "Do it!" The Vanguard dove toward Titan's thick, orange-hued atmosphere, the alien vessels in pursuit. As they breached the upper layers, the ship began to shudder violently. "Hull temperature rising," reported the engineering officer. "Compensating with additional shield power." The alien ships followed, but slowed their pursuit at the atmospheric boundary. One ventured deeper, its hull beginning to glow from friction. "They're not designed for atmospheric insertion," Elena realized. "Lieutenant Quan, target that pursuing vessel. Full spread, aft torpedo tubes." Targeting. Locked. Firing. The torpedoes streaked back toward their pursuer, detonating not against the ship, but in the atmosphere around it. The explosions created a massive pressure wave in Titan's dense atmosphere, sending the alien vessel tumbling out of control. It collided with another pursuer, both ships erupting in blossoms of blue-white energy. "2 confirmed hits," Quan reported, a note of triumph in her voice. "Don't celebrate yet," Elena cautioned. "Take us deeper, then plot a course to the dark side of Titan. We need to regroup." As the Vanguard descended further into Titan's protective shroud, Elena opened a channel to Dr. Holt. "I need answers. Doctor, what did they mean we chose war? We've barely made contact." "I'm analyzing their language patterns now," Holt replied, his voice strained. "But, Commodore, I have a theory. The corridor probe we sent, it contains standard first contact protocols, including our biological classification and basic cultural information." "Standard procedure," Elena confirmed. "Yes, but what if—" Holt paused. "What if they've encountered humans before?" A chill ran down Elena's spine. "That's impossible. We've only achieved interstellar travel in the last century. Perhaps not us, specifically, but humanoids. Similar species from other systems. If they've cataloged biological types throughout their conquest, then they recognize our pattern. Elena finished the thought. And they've already decided our fate. The implications hung heavy in the air as the Vanguard found temporary sanctuary in Titan's atmospheric depths. Humanity hadn't just discovered alien life. They'd awakened an ancient enemy that already knew exactly what they were. And apparently, that enemy had already decided that humanity deserved only war. The Vanguard limped through Titan's methane clouds, its hull groaning under the atmospheric pressure. In the ship's medical bay, injured crew members filled every available bed, victims of the brief but devastating first encounter with the Illurian forces. Elena stood at the bedside of a young ensign, barely 20, who had suffered severe burns when an EPS conduit ruptured during the battle. Dr. Carmichael, the ship's chief medical officer, administered pain medication as he briefed Elena. 14 injured, 3 critically, she reported grimly. We've stabilized them for now, but without access to the medical facilities at Titan Base, we'll get them help, Elena promised, though uncertainty gnawed at her. The Illurian dreadnought had positioned itself between the Vanguard and the human outpost on Titan's surface. Any attempt to reach the base would expose them to another attack. Her communicator chirped, "Reyes here!" "Commodore," came Quan's voice. "Sensors indicate the smaller Illurian vessels are conducting sweep patterns. They're searching methodically through the atmosphere. It's only a matter of time before they find us." "Understood. Maintain silent running. I'm on my way to the bridge." Elena turned back to Dr. Carmichael. "Do what you can for them." As she made her way through the corridors, Elena noted the determination in her crew's faces, despite the fear. They'd trained for first contact scenarios, but nothing had prepared them for this. An enemy that declared war within seconds of communication. On the bridge, the main view screen showed a thermal image of Titan's atmosphere, with bright spots indicating the Illurian search vessels. "They're using some kind of sonar analog," Quan explained, as Elena took her seat. "Sound doesn't travel well here, but they're sending out energy pulses that reflect off solid objects. Countermeasures? Chief Engineer Reyes has modified our shields to absorb the pulses, rather than reflect them. It's working for now, but it's draining our power reserves." Elena nodded. "Status of the main dreadnought?" "Holding position near the corridor entrance. It appears to be communicating with something." "More reinforcements?" "Unknown, but the energy signatures match those of the corridor when it activated." Elena considered their options. None of them good. They couldn't outrun or outfight the Illurian forces, and help from Earth was weeks away, assuming Earth Command even believed their report. "Get me Dr. Holt," she ordered. Moments later, the scientist's haggard face appeared on a secondary screen. "Commodore, I've been analyzing the Illurian communication patterns and ship construction. I may have found something." "I'm listening." "Their ships are partially biological, as we suspected. But it's more than that. They appear to function like a collective nervous system. The smaller vessels are literally extensions of the dreadnought, sharing a centralized consciousness." "A hive mind?" "Essentially, yes. And based on their communication patterns, the entire fleet resonates at specific frequencies, like a signature tune that identifies them as Illurian." Elena leaned forward. "Could we disrupt that frequency?" Holt's eyes widened. "Theoretically, yes. A targeted energy pulse at the exact counter-frequency could temporarily disable their network. But we'd need precise measurements, and we'd have to get close to the dreadnought itself." "Too risky," Quan interjected. "They'd destroy us before we got within range." "Not necessarily," came Omar's voice as he entered the bridge, his uniform stained with coolant fluid. "We still have the stealth probes we were using to study Titan's upper atmosphere." "They're scientific instruments, not weapons," Quan argued. "But they're small, fast, and equipped with high-resolution scanners," Omar countered. "If we could modify one to record the Illurian bioresonance frequency and transmit it back, we could develop a counter-frequency," Elena finished, a spark of hope kindling. Do it. How soon can a probe be ready? 2 hours, maybe less, Omar estimated. Make it 1. Lieutenant Kwan. Plot a course that will bring us within probe deployment range while keeping maximum cloud cover. As the officers moved to carry out their orders, Elena's communicator chirped again. Commodore, came the communications officer's urgent voice. We're receiving a transmission from Earth Command. Priority Alpha? Elena's jaw tightened. Put it through to my ready room. In the privacy of her office, Elena faced the stern visage of Admiral Park, Earth Command's operational director for the outer colonies. Commodore Reyes, he began without preamble. We've received your preliminary report on the alien contact. Your orders are to stand down immediately and withdraw from Titan space. Elena stared in disbelief. Admiral, with respect, withdrawal isn't an option. The Illurian forces have blockaded Titan base. We have over 200 civilian scientists and their families trapped there. We understand the situation, Park replied, his voice cold. A diplomatic team is being assembled to attempt communication with these Illurians. Until they arrive, you are not, I repeat, not, to engage the alien vessels under any circumstances. They've already engaged us, Admiral. They fired first and explicitly stated their intention for war. That's your interpretation, Commodore. We have xenolinguists here who suggest alternative translations. Elena fought to keep her temper. Our xenolinguist is Dr. Isaac Holt, one of the pioneers of the field. His translation is not in question. Nevertheless, your orders stand. The Vanguard is to proceed to the Jupiter way station immediately. The diplomatic team will handle first contact properly. In 3 weeks when they arrive, the Illurians could have obliterated Titan base by then. Park's expression hardened. That is a risk we must accept in the interests of avoiding interstellar war. Earth cannot afford a conflict with a technologically superior species. These are your orders, Commodore. Carry them out. The transmission ended before Elena could respond, leaving her staring at a blank screen, fury and disbelief warring within her. After several long moments, she opened the ship-wide comm channel. This is Commodore Reyes to all hands. Earth Command has ordered our withdrawal from Titan space. She paused, feeling the weight of her next words. I am hereby placing that order under review, pending assessment of the tactical situation. All departments continue operations as directed. Reyes out. She knew what this meant. Defying a direct order from Earth Command was career suicide at best, court-martial offense at worst. But abandoning Titan base and its inhabitants was unthinkable. Returning to the bridge, Elena found her officers pretending they hadn't heard her announcement over the ship-wide system. Probe status, she asked, as if nothing had changed. Modifications at 80%, Omar reported from his station, meeting her gaze with quiet support. We'll be ready for deployment in 20 minutes. Lieutenant Kwan, tactical assessment of our approach vector? Kwan straightened. 3 potential routes identified, each with approximately 62% cloud cover. Recommending Vector Gamma, it keeps Saturn between us and the Dreadnought for the longest duration. Make it so, Elena ordered, settling into her command chair. And monitor all Illurian communications. I want to know the moment anything changes. As the Vanguard began its careful approach, Elena sensed a shift in the bridge atmosphere, a new resolve among her crew. They understood the choice she'd made and stood with her. Whether Earth Command approved or not, the UEF Vanguard would not abandon humanity's outpost on Titan. They would fight, and perhaps, if Dr. Holt's theory proved correct, they might even find a way to win. The stealth probe glided silently through Titan's upper atmosphere, its matte black hull absorbing, rather than reflecting light, as it approached the massive Illurian dreadnought. In the Vanguard science lab, Dr. Holt watched the telemetry with bated breath, while on the bridge. Elena and her officers tracked its progress. 500 kilometers to target, reported the sensor officer. No indication they've detected it. Probe functioning within parameters, Omar added from engineering. Scanner modifications are holding stable. Elena nodded. Her focus, absolute. Begin recording bioresonance frequencies as soon as we're in range. The minutes crawled by as the probe closed distance with agonizing slowness. Any faster, and it might trigger the Elurian's detection systems. 300 kilometers. 200. 150. We're in optimal scanning range, reported the sensor officer. Beginning data collection. On the lab display, complex waveforms appeared as the probe began recording the subtle energy patterns emanating from the Elurian vessels. Dr. Holt's eyes widened. Extraordinary, he breathed. The patterns are music-like, mathematically perfect harmonics. How long until we have enough data to synthesize a counter-frequency? Elena asked over the comm. 2 minutes for basic analysis, but I'd prefer... Alarms suddenly blared across all stations. Probe has been detected, Quan shouted. Elurian interceptors changing course to investigate. Accelerate data collection, Elena ordered. How much have we got? 70% of the resonance spectrum, Holt reported tensely. We need more time. Buying you time, Quan responded, fingers flying over her tactical console. Deploying countermeasures. From concealed tubes along the Vanguard's hull, dozens of small decoy drones burst forth, each broadcasting sensor signatures mimicking the probe. They scattered in different directions, creating a confused pattern on Elurian scanners. Interceptors are dividing to pursue decoys, Quan reported with grim satisfaction. Probe continuing data collection. 90%, Holt called out. Just a few more seconds. Dreadnought is powering weapon systems, warned the sensor officer. They're preparing to fire. Probe data collection complete, Holt announced. Transmitting to Vanguard now. Recall probe and prepare for emergency maneuvers, Elena ordered. All hands, brace for evasion pattern Delta. The Vanguard suddenly dropped deeper into Titan's atmosphere, engines straining as it performed a tight spiral to throw off targeting systems. Above them, the atmosphere lit up as Elurian energy weapons discharged, creating rippling distortions where they passed. Probe destroyed, reported the sensor officer, but data package received intact. Get us back to our hiding position, Elena commanded. Dr. Holt, analysis? Already working on it. Commodore, the scientist replied, his voice tight with concentration. The resonance patterns are unlike anything in our databases, but they follow recognizable mathematical principles. I believe we can synthesize a counter-frequency that would disrupt their bioneural network. How long to develop a working prototype? With Chief Engineer Reyes's help, perhaps 12 hours. Elena's jaw set firmly. You have 6. The Elurians now know we're still here and actively gathering intelligence. They'll intensify their search. As if confirming her words, the sensor display lit up with new contacts, dozens of smaller Elurian vessels descending into Titan's atmosphere. They're changing tactics, Quan observed. Switching from search patterns to a full sweep. They're going to comb the entire moon if necessary. Then we need more than just a defensive measure. Elena decided. Dr. Holt, could your counter-frequency be weaponized? Something that doesn't just disrupt their communications, but actively disables their ships? A long pause followed. When Holt spoke again, his voice was troubled. Theoretically, yes. If we amplify the counter-frequency to destructive levels, it could overload their bioneural pathways. But Commodore, that would be tantamount to inflicting mass neural trauma. For a partially biological system, it would be excruciating. You're talking about a pain weapon, Quan stated flatly. Or worse, Holt admitted. At high enough amplitudes, it could cause permanent damage to their neural networks. Effectively, brain damage or death for the collective. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Elena felt the weight of the decision before her. They were facing an enemy that had declared war unprovoked, that apparently enslaved entire species. An enemy with overwhelming technological superiority, Conventional weapons had proven useless, but a weapon that caused mass suffering. "Dr. Holt," she said finally, "develop both versions, the disruptive countermeasure and the weaponized variant. We'll decide which to deploy when the time comes." "Commodore," Holt began, clearly uncomfortable. "That's an order. Doctor, we're fighting for survival here, not just of this ship, but potentially of our entire species. I need every option on the table." "Understood," Holt replied quietly, before terminating the connection. Elena turned to find Quan watching her, the tactical officer's expression unreadable. "You disagree, Lieutenant?" "Permission to speak freely, ma'am." "Always. Earth Command ordered withdrawal for good reason. If these Illurians are as powerful as they appear, escalating the conflict could have devastating consequences. Using a weapon that causes mass neural trauma, that crosses a line." "A line they crossed first when they opened fire without provocation," Elena countered. "Perhaps. But becoming what we're fighting against won't save humanity. It will transform it into something not worth saving." Elena considered Quan's words, respecting the officer's moral stance, even as pragmatism pulled her in another direction. "Your concern is noted, Lieutenant. But for now, we pursue all available options. If we can find a non-lethal solution, believe me, I'll take it." Quan nodded stiffly. "Yes, ma'am." As the Vanguard descended deeper into Titan's protective atmosphere, Elena gazed at the sensor display showing the spreading pattern of Illurian search vessels. Time was running out. Soon, they would have to fight or flee, and fleeing meant abandoning hundreds of innocent colonists to whatever fate the Illurians had in store. The words echoed in her mind. "You chose war with humanity. Good luck surviving." They hadn't chosen this war, but they would damn well survive it. 6 hours later, the Vanguard hovered in the methane-rich lower atmosphere of Titan, its power systems operating at minimal levels to avoid detection. In the main engineering lab, Dr. Holt and Chief Engineer Omar Reyes stood before a hastily assembled device that hummed with energy, its central chamber pulsing with rhythmic light. "The bioresonance disruptor is operational," Omar announced, wiping sweat from his brow despite the lab's cool temperature. "Basic function tests confirm it can generate the counter frequency with 93% accuracy." "Effective range?" Elena asked, examining the device. It was smaller than she'd expected, roughly the size of a standard torpedo. "Approximately 5,000 kilometers," Holt replied. "But that's for the disruptive version. The weaponized variant would have a much shorter range due to energy dispersion. Perhaps 1,000 kilometers at most. Either way, we'd need to get close to the dreadnought." Quan observed from beside Elena. The tactical officer had been quiet since their earlier disagreement, but duty brought her to the demonstration. "What about delivery options?" Elena asked her brother. Omar gestured to a schematic on the nearby display. "We've designed it to fit inside a modified torpedo casing. Standard launch procedures apply, but we'll need to get much closer than normal weapons range. And we'll only get one shot," Holt added grimly. "Once they detect the device's energy signature, they'll adapt their defensive systems." Elena nodded, studying the device with a mixture of hope and apprehension. "And the weaponized version?" Holt's expression tightened. "It's ready. Same delivery system, but with the amplitude increased by a factor of 20. At that level, it would cause catastrophic disruption to their bio-neural network." "Simulated effects?" Elena pressed. "Based on our limited understanding of their biology." Holt hesitated. "Imagine the worst migraine possible, multiplied exponentially, striking every neural pathway simultaneously. For a collective consciousness, the effect would be devastating." "It would be like setting their brains on fire," Quan said quietly. "There's something else you should know," Holt continued reluctantly. "I've analyzed the data more thoroughly. The Illurian ships aren't just controlled by a hive mind. They are the hive mind. The biological components are integrated throughout their vessels. Essentially, the ships are their bodies. So using the weaponized version would be like attacking their physical form directly, Elena concluded. Yes, and based on their communication patterns, the experience would be shared across their entire collective. Every Allurian connected to the network would feel it. The implication hung heavy in the air. This wasn't just a tactical weapon. It was potentially a device for mass torture. Elena stepped back, running a hand through her short cropped hair. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. For now, we focus on the disruptive version. Our primary goal is to disable their ships long enough to evacuate Titan Base. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. Elena's communicator chirped urgently. Commodore to the bridge, immediately. Allurian forces have begun bombarding Titan Base. Elena and her officers rushed to the bridge, where the main view screen showed thermal imagery of Titan's surface. Bright flashes of energy struck repeatedly at the human outpost, its defensive shields already failing under the assault. Status of base shields? Elena demanded. Down to 30% and falling rapidly, reported the sensor officer. They're transmitting distress calls on all frequencies. Casualties? Unknown, but life signs are diminishing in the outer habitation rings. Elena's decision crystallized in that moment. Battle stations. Prepare to surface and engage enemy vessels. Load the bioresonance disruptor into torpedo tube 1. Which version? Omar asked quietly. Elena met her brother's gaze, then looked to Holt and Quan. The weight of command had never felt heavier. The disruptive version, she decided. We disable their ships, not destroy them. Lieutenant Quan, target the vessels attacking the base first. Aye, Commodore, Quan replied, visible relief in her eyes. Chief Engineer, divert all available power to shields and engines. We'll need everything we've got. Understood, Omar acknowledged, already moving toward the engineering station. Dr. Holt, monitor the disruptor's effects carefully. If it's not working as expected, we may need to adjust on the fly. As her officers moved to their stations, Elena opened a ship-wide channel. All hands. This is the Commodore. The Allurian forces have begun attacking Titan Base. We are moving to engage. This is not a fight we chose, but it is one we must win, not just for ourselves, but for the civilians counting on us. Every one of you knows the risks. Every one of you understands what's at stake. I couldn't ask for a finer crew. Rhea's out. She settled into her command chair as the Vanguard's engines roared to life, propelling the ship upward through Titan's dense atmosphere toward the battle that would determine the fate of humanity's outpost, and perhaps humanity itself. The Vanguard burst through Titan's cloud layers like a missile, startling the Allurian vessels bombarding the human outpost below. For a crucial moment, the alien ships paused their attack, sensors reorienting toward this unexpected threat. Evasive pattern Theta, Elena ordered calmly. Target nearest Allurian vessel and prepare to fire disruptor. Target locked, Quan confirmed, her focus absolute. Torpedo armed and ready. Fire. The modified torpedo streaked from the Vanguard's launch tube, a trail of blue energy marking its path toward the closest Allurian ship. The alien vessel attempted evasive action, but the torpedo adjusted course, its guidance systems locked on the unique biosignature of its target. Impact came in a flash of brilliant light, not an explosion, but a pulse of energy that rippled across the Allurian ship's surface like water. For a breathless moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, the alien vessel's lights flickered and dimmed, its graceful movements becoming erratic. Direct hit, Quan reported. Target vessel showing signs of systemic disruption. The disruptor is working, Holt confirmed from the science station, excitement breaking through his usual reserve. Their bio-neural network is experiencing cascading failures. The effect is temporarily paralyzing their ship functions. How long will it last? Elena asked. Based on these readings, approximately 7 minutes before their systems begin self-repair. Enough time to make a difference. Target the next vessel. Helm, Bring us within range of the main attack group. The Vanguard surged forward, its railguns providing covering fire as it closed distance with the Illurian vessels still focused on Titan base. The human outpost shields were failing. Sections of the habitat domes already breached and venting atmosphere. Base commander on emergency channel, reported the communications officer. Put them through. Vanguard. This is Director Kessler, came a strained voice amidst static and alarms. We've got multiple breaches and fires in residential sectors. Medical facilities overwhelmed. Cannot hold position much longer. Hang on, Director, Elena responded. We're engaging the enemy now. Begin evacuation procedures to emergency shelters. We'll clear you a path to the transport bay. Understood. Godspeed, Vanguard. 2 more disruptor torpedoes found their marks, temporarily disabling the Illurian vessels nearest the base. The remaining alien ships turned their attention to the Vanguard. Energy weapons charging. Incoming fire, Quan warned. Multiple vectors. Evasive action, Elena commanded. Deploy countermeasures. The Vanguard twisted and dove, narrowly avoiding the first salvo of Illurian weapons fire. A glancing hit struck the port shields, sending power fluctuations throughout the ship. Shields holding at 70%, reported the engineering officer. Return fire. All batteries, Elena ordered. Focus on creating a corridor for the base evacuation transports. The ship's conventional weapons blazed, more to distract the Illurians than to damage them. Meanwhile, Quan methodically targeted and fired the precious disruptor torpedoes, each one temporarily removing an enemy vessel from the battle. 4 torpedoes remaining, she reported grimly. Elena nodded. They had started with 8, half their arsenal already depleted, and dozens of Illurian ships still active. Worse, sensors showed the massive dreadnought descending from orbit, drawn by the battle. New contact, called the sensor officer. Massive energy signature from the corridor. The view screen shifted to show the Illurian star corridor pulsing with renewed activity. From its depths emerged more ships, not as large as the dreadnought, but each easily outclassing the Vanguard. Reinforcements, Elena said grimly. How many? At least 12 new vessels, heavy cruiser class, based on their energy profiles. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. Even with the disruptor torpedoes, they couldn't hope to neutralize so many enemy ships before being overwhelmed. Commodore, Omar's voice came over the comm from engineering. I've been monitoring the disruptor's effects. There's something we didn't anticipate. Go ahead. The disruption is propagating through their communication network. When one ship is affected, it briefly impacts others connected to it. Not enough to disable them, but it creates a vulnerability. Elena leaned forward. Are you suggesting the effect could be amplified? Exactly. If we could target the dreadnought directly, the center of their network, the cascade effect might temporarily disable their entire fleet. But the dreadnought is too well protected, Quan objected. We'd never get a torpedo through its defenses. Not from outside, Omar agreed. But if someone could deliver the device directly to their central biocore. A boarding mission. The implication was clear and nearly suicidal. That's insane, Quan stated flatly. Their internal defenses would be even more formidable than their external ones. Perhaps, Elena acknowledged. But Dr. Holt's analysis showed that the Illurians focused their consciousness outward during combat. Their internal security might be relatively minimal. It's a significant risk, Holt interjected. But Chief Engineer Rhea's theory is sound. The disruptor would be exponentially more effective if delivered directly to their central neural node. Elena weighed their dwindling options. The base evacuation was underway, but with Illurian reinforcements arriving, the chances of getting the transport safely away were shrinking by the minute. Omar, how quickly could you modify the disruptor for manual detonation? 15 minutes, maybe less. Do it. Lieutenant Quan, assemble a boarding team. 6 operators. Full tactical gear. Commodore, Quan began, clearly torn between duty and concern. This mission has an extremely low probability of success. Noted, Lieutenant. But right now, low probability is better than none. Elena's expression softened slightly. And I'll be leading the boarding team myself. Protests erupted from around the bridge, but Elena silenced them with a raised hand. This is not open for debate. I'm not ordering anyone into a situation I wouldn't face myself. Besides, you'll need your tactical officer here to coordinate the ship's defense while we're gone. Quan straightened, recognizing the logic even as she disagreed with the risk. Yes, ma'am. I'll prepare the team. Omar, you'll join us. We'll need your expertise with the device. Wouldn't miss it, her brother replied with grim humor. Dr. Holt, you have the most detailed understanding of Allurian biology. We need you as well. The scientist paled slightly, but nodded. I'll prepare immediately. As her officers dispersed to their tasks, Elena opened a secure channel to Titan Base. Director Kessler, this is Commodore Reyes. We're initiating Operation Hammerfall, a direct strike on the Allurian command vessel. Continue evacuation procedures, but be prepared for a window of opportunity when their ships are temporarily disabled. You'll need to move quickly when it comes. Understood, Commodore, Kessler replied. But this sounds like a one-way mission. Elena's gaze drifted to the view screen, where the massive Allurian dreadnought loomed against Titan's orange sky. Every mission has a way back, Director. Some are just harder to find than others. In the Vanguard's armory, Elena secured the last piece of her tactical armor as around her. The boarding team made their final preparations. 6 of her best security officers checked weapons and equipment, their faces set with determined focus. Dr. Holt adjusted the settings on a specialized scanner designed to detect Allurian biosignatures, while Omar carefully packed the modified disruptor device into a reinforced case. The manual trigger is keyed to this detonator, Omar explained, showing Elena a small device with a simple activation switch. Once armed, you'll have 30 seconds before detonation. The blast radius is minimal, mostly energy rather than explosive force. But I'd recommend being at least 50 meters away when it goes off. Elena nodded, securing the detonator to her utility belt. And you're certain this will work? As certain as I can be with alien technology we barely understand, Omar replied with a tight smile. But the theory is sound. Their entire network operates on synchronized bioresonance. Disrupt the core node, and the effect should cascade throughout their fleet. How long will the disruption last? Longer than the individual torpedoes, perhaps 30 minutes. After that, they'll begin adapting. 30 minutes to evacuate an entire base, Elena murmured. It'll have to do. Lieutenant Quan approached, handing Elena a data tablet. Insertion plan, Commodore. We've identified what appears to be a maintenance access point on the Dreadnought's ventral hull. The shuttle's stealth systems should get us close enough for a magnetic lock-on. Good work. Elena addressed the assembled team. This mission has one objective: deliver the disruptor device to the Allurian biocore and trigger it. Everything else is secondary. We go in fast, quiet, and together. No heroics, no detours. She looked each team member in the eye. I won't lie to you. The odds aren't in our favor. But right now, we're the only chance those colonists have. Questions? A security officer raised her hand. Rules of engagement, ma'am. Defensive force only. We're not there to fight. We're there to deliver a package. Avoid contact where possible, and use non-lethal measures if contact is unavoidable. Dr. Holt cleared his throat. Commodore, there's something else you should know. Based on my analysis of their communication patterns, the Allurians may be telepathically linked, if one detects us. They all will, Elena finished. All the more reason to move quickly and quietly. Anything else? When no one spoke, she nodded briskly. Equipment check, then to the shuttle bay in 5 minutes. As the team dispersed, Omar lingered, concern evident in his eyes. Elena, Don't, Omar, she said quietly. This isn't the time for goodbyes. I wasn't going to say goodbye, just remember the canyon on Mars? Despite the tension, Elena smiled at the memory. As children, they'd ventured too far into Valles Marineris during a family vacation, becoming hopelessly lost as night fell. It was 12-year-old Omar who had found their way back, navigating by the stars with a confidence that belied his age. You got us home then, she acknowledged. And we'll get home now, he promised. Both of us. The moment was interrupted by the ship-wide comm. Commodore to the bridge. Urgent transmission from Earth Command. Elena sighed. Finish prep. I'll meet you at the shuttle. On the bridge. Admiral Park's stern visage filled the main screen. His expression suggested he was well aware of the Vanguard's continued presence at Titan. Commodore Reyes, he began coldly. Our long-range sensors indicate ongoing engagement with alien forces at Titan. You were ordered to withdraw immediately. With respect, Admiral, Elena replied, standing at parade rest. Withdrawal was not tactically viable. The Illurian forces had blockaded the moon and begun attacking the civilian outpost. Abandoning those colonists was not an option I could accept. Your personal feelings are irrelevant, Commodore. You have disobeyed a direct order and potentially escalated an interstellar conflict. The conflict was not of our making, sir. The Illurians declared hostile intent and opened fire without provocation. Park's jaw tightened. Our diplomatic team has made contact with an Illurian representative through long-range communication. They claim your probe contained offensive scanning technology that violated their sovereign territory. Their sovereign territory is a star corridor that's existed for millennia without any indication of ownership, Elena countered. And standard exploration probes hardly constitute offensive technology. That's for the diplomats to sort out. Your orders remain unchanged. Withdraw immediately and proceed to Jupiter Way Station for debriefing and potential disciplinary action. Elena took a deep breath. I'm afraid I can't comply. Admiral, we're in the final stages of an operation to rescue the Titan base colonists. Once they're safely evacuated, we'll reassess our position. Park's face reddened. This is outright insubordination, Commodore. I am relieving you of command, effective immediately. Lieutenant Kwan is to assume control of the Vanguard and execute withdrawal orders. Lieutenant Kwan is currently coordinating our defense operations and is not available to take command. Elena replied evenly. Furthermore, Article 17 of the Fleet Charter allows a commanding officer to delay transfer of command during active combat operations if such transfer would endanger the ship or its mission. This is your final warning. Reyes, stand down now or face court-martial upon return. Elena met his gaze steadily. I understand the consequences of my actions, Admiral, and I accept them. But I will not abandon those colonists. Vanguard out. She signaled the communications officer to terminate the transmission, then took a moment to compose herself before turning to the bridge crew. Their expressions ranged from shock to quiet approval. You all heard that, she said calmly. I've chosen my path, but I won't ask any of you to follow me into insubordination. If anyone wishes to formally register objection to my continued command, now is the time. Silence greeted her words. Finally, the helmsman spoke. Begging your pardon, Commodore, but I think I speak for everyone when I say we'd rather face court-martial with you than abandon those people down there. Murmurs of agreement rippled across the bridge. Elena nodded, deeply moved by their loyalty. Thank you. Now, we have a mission to complete. Maintain defensive operations and prepare to coordinate with Titan Base for evacuation the moment the Illurian fleet is disabled. As she left the bridge, Elena knew she had crossed a line from which there was no return. Her career was over, regardless of the mission's outcome. But if they succeeded, if they saved those colonists, it would be worth it. In the shuttle bay, the boarding team waited in tense readiness. Elena joined them, securing her helmet as the bay doors began to open. "Mission is a go," she announced. "Let's bring our people home." The stealth shuttle detached from the Vanguard's ventral bay, its matte black hull absorbing, rather than reflecting light, as it slipped into the battle zone. At the controls, one of the security officers, Ensign DeVoe, the team's best pilot, guided them through the chaos with preternatural calm. Inside the cramped compartment, Elena studied tactical displays showing the positions of Allurian vessels. The massive dreadnought hovered above Titan's North Pole, coordinating the attack but not directly participating. Dozens of smaller ships swarmed around it like remoras around a shark. "Approaching optimal insertion vector," DeVoe reported quietly. "Stealth systems at maximum. No indication of detection." "Hold course," Elena ordered. "Dr. Holt, biosignature readings?" The scientist studied his specialized scanner. "Highest concentration in the central sphere, as expected. That's our target, their biocore." "How far from the access point?" "Approximately 300 meters through what appears to be a network of maintenance corridors." Omar leaned over to examine the scanner. "Those aren't corridors in the conventional sense. Look at the pattern. It's more like a circulatory system." "Agreed." Holt nodded. "The ship isn't just controlled by biological components. It's grown around them. We'll be moving through what amounts to the Dreadnought's vascular network." Elena processed this unsettling information. "Will we encounter resistance within these passages?" "Difficult to say," Holt admitted. "If the ship truly is a biological entity, it might have internal defense mechanisms akin to an immune system." "Wonderful," muttered one of the security officers. "We're about to become a virus." "Final approach," DeVoe interrupted. "Magnetic grapples ready." Through the shuttle's viewports, the Allurian dreadnought loomed impossibly large, a behemoth of iridescent material that seemed to pulse with inner light. Its surface wasn't uniform, but textured with patterns reminiscent of coral, or perhaps neural structures. "Target locked," DeVoe confirmed, initiating docking sequence. The shuttle shuddered as magnetic grapples extended, seeking purchase on the alien hull. Contact came with a muted thump that reverberated through the small craft. "Secure seal established," reported DeVoe. "Ready for boarding." Elena nodded to the security team. "Cutting team, you're up." Two officers moved to the airlock, deploying specialized tools designed to breach unknown materials. The devices hummed as they worked, molecular disruptors breaking bonds at the atomic level rather than cutting with heat or force. "Breakthrough in 10 seconds, reported the lead officer. "Stand by. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're in." The section of hull separated cleanly, revealing a passage beyond, unlike anything human engineers would design. Instead of metal corridors with right angles and uniform dimensions, they faced an organic tunnel with gently curved walls that pulsed with soft bioluminescence. "Atmosphere?" Elena asked. Holt checked his scanner. "Breathable, surprisingly. Oxygen-nitrogen mix similar to Earth standard, though with trace elements I don't recognize. Recommend keeping helmets sealed nonetheless." "Agreed. Security team. Standard formation. I'll take point with Ensign Rodriguez, Dr. Holt and Chief Engineer Reyes in the center. Remaining security on rear guard. Move out." Elena stepped through the breach into the Allurian vessel, feeling as though she were entering a living organism rather than a ship. The passage contracted slightly as they moved forward, the walls pulsing in rhythmic patterns. Underfoot, the surface yielded slightly with each step, like walking on firm cartilage. "This is incredible," Holt whispered, his scientific curiosity momentarily overriding the mission's tension. "The entire structure appears to be a silicon-carbon hybrid, organic material reinforced with crystalline matrices." "Stay focused, Doctor," Elena reminded him gently. "Which way to the biocore?" Holt consulted his scanner. "Forward 200 meters. Then the passage branches. We'll need to take the larger central route." The team moved silently through the alien vessel, each step taking them deeper into what felt increasingly like a massive body. The bioluminescence shifted colors subtly as they passed, from cool blue to purplish hues, then to amber tones. The light patterns are changing in response to our presence, Omar observed quietly. I think the ship knows we're here. Has it alerted the Allurians? Elena asked sharply. I don't believe so, Holt replied, studying his readings. This appears to be an autonomous response, like a reflex. But if we penetrate deeper into vital areas... He didn't need to finish the thought. They were walking a knife's edge, hoping to reach the core before triggering a full, immune response from the living ship. They reached the junction Holt had identified, where the passage split into 3 branches. The central path was indeed larger, pulsing with more intense light. That's our route, Holt confirmed. Biosignatures are strongest in that direction. As they entered the larger passage, the environment changed subtly. The walls became more transparent, revealing complex structures flowing through them, patterns of light and fluid that resembled blood vessels and neural pathways intertwined. We're entering a more critical system, Holt explained, equivalent to a major artery or neural cluster. How much further? Elena asked, increasingly conscious of their limited time. 100 meters to the outer chamber of the biocore. But there's something else. Holt frowned at his scanner. I'm detecting movement ahead. Autonomous entities within the ship's circulatory system. Defensive measures? Omar suggested. Most likely. Similar to white blood cells, perhaps. Elena signaled the team to halt. Options? We could try to avoid them, Holt suggested. Take an alternate route. Time constraint, Omar reminded them. Every minute we delay, more colonists die on Titan. Elena made her decision. We proceed as planned. Non-lethal measures only. Remember, we don't know if harming these entities will alert the Allurians to our presence. They advanced cautiously, weapons ready. The passage widened into a chamber where multiple conduits converged. Floating within the space were dozens of small, translucent orbs that pulsed with internal light, each about the size of a human fist. Fascinating, Holt breathed. They appear to be autonomous maintenance units. See how they're repairing microfractures in the conduit walls? As he spoke, several of the orbs turned toward the intruders, their pulsing light shifting from calm blue to agitated red. They began to drift toward the team with increasing speed. I think we've been identified as foreign bodies, Omar warned. The orbs accelerated suddenly, their outer membranes hardening into crystalline spikes as they charged. Defensive positions, Elena ordered. Pulse weapons only. The security team formed a protective circle around Holt and Omar, their specialized weapons firing concentrated electromagnetic pulses designed to disrupt electronic systems without causing physical damage. The first wave of orbs shuddered as the pulses struck them, their lights flickering before they dropped lifelessly to the chamber floor. Effective, Elena noted with relief. Keep moving forward. Dr. Holt, distance to core? 50 meters through that main conduit. Holt indicated a large passage pulsing with intense golden light. But I'm detecting increased activity ahead. The ship is definitely responding to our presence now. More orbs appeared from adjoining passages, these larger and moving with greater purpose. Behind them came new entities, serpentine constructs that twisted through the air with frightening speed. We can't fight through all of them, Omar realized. There are too many. Elena assessed their options rapidly. We need a diversion. Ensign Rodriguez, set sonic disruptors on delayed activation at 30-second intervals. Place them along our back trail. Yes, ma'am. The security officer quickly deployed small devices from her tactical vest, programming each one before placing it against the passage walls. The rest of you, prepare to move quickly. Once we trigger the first disruptor, we'll have seconds before more defensive measures respond. When Rodriguez returned, Elena activated her comm. On my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. The first sonic disruptor, activated with a high-frequency pulse that made the entire passage shudder. The defensive orbs and serpentine constructs immediately changed direction, flowing toward the disturbance. Now, Elena ordered, leading the team at a run toward the core passage. They sprinted through the golden conduit as subsequent disruptors activated behind them, creating a chain of distractions that drew the ship's defensive measures away. The passage walls contracted and expanded around them like a massive artery, the bioluminescence flaring brightly as they passed. 20 meters to core access, Holt reported between labored breaths. The conduit ended abruptly at a membranous barrier that pulsed with shifting patterns of light, like a massive iris or valve. This is it, Holt confirmed. The outer membrane of the biocore. How do we get through? Elena asked. Omar examined the membrane closely. It appears to be responsive to specific bioelectrical signals. Dr. Holt, can you isolate the opening frequency from your scans? The scientist manipulated his scanner, focusing on the patterns flowing across the membrane. I believe so. It's a complex harmonic, but if we can replicate it. He adjusted settings on a small device taken from his kit, then held it toward the membrane. The device emitted a series of tones that seemed to resonate with the pulsing light patterns. Slowly, the membrane began to dilate, creating an opening at its center. Remarkable, Omar murmured. It's responding to the harmonic signature like a biological lock and key. Security team, maintain position here, Elena ordered. Dr. Holt, Chief Engineer Reyes, with me. We'll place the device and withdraw immediately. The three officers slipped through the opening into the biocore chamber beyond. Elena froze in momentary awe at the sight that greeted them. The chamber was vast, far larger than seemed possible from outside, with a cathedral-like quality enhanced by columns of pulsing light that stretched from floor to ceiling. At the center floated what could only be described as a brain, an enormous crystalline structure veined with luminous pathways that branched and reconnected in complex patterns. Surrounding it was a field of shimmering energy, like a protective amniotic sac. The Allurian central neural node, Holt whispered reverently. The collective consciousness of their entire fleet. It's beautiful, Omar admitted, despite everything. Elena forced herself to focus on the mission. Where do we place the disruptor for maximum effect? Holt consulted his scanner. There, that junction point where the major neural pathways converge. The resonance will propagate most effectively from that position. Omar carefully removed the disruptor device from its case. I'll need to make final calibrations based on the actual resonance frequencies in this chamber. As he worked, Elena surveyed the vast space, struck by the strange beauty of this alien consciousness. Despite their hostility, the Allurians had created something extraordinary, a truly collective existence where individual and group were seamlessly integrated. It makes you wonder, she said quietly. What might have been possible if first contact had gone differently? Perhaps there's still hope for understanding. Holt suggested, this disruption isn't permanent. It could be the first step toward meaningful communication, rather than war. Device is calibrated and ready, Omar announced. Where shall I place it? Before Holt could answer, a resonant tone filled the chamber. Not sound exactly, but something felt as much as heard. The crystalline brain pulsed with sudden intensity, its patterns shifting rapidly. We've been detected, Holt warned urgently. The collective is becoming aware of our presence. The energy field around the neural structure flared, sending tendrils of light reaching toward them like probing fingers. Omar, place the device now, Elena ordered. Dr. Holt, help me buy him time. As Omar moved toward the neural junction, Elena and Holt positioned themselves between him and the probing energy tendrils, using their bodies as shields. The tendrils touched Elena's armor, sending a shock of alien consciousness through her mind, images and sensations not meant for human comprehension. She gritted her teeth against the mental invasion, holding her position. "Almost there," Omar called, stretching to reach the designated junction point. The chamber's entrances suddenly sealed as more energy tendrils emerged from the walls and ceiling, converging on the intruders with increasing urgency. "Hurry!" Elena gasped, as a tendril wrapped around her arm, the alien presence pushing deeper into her mind. Fragmented thoughts, not her own, flooded her consciousness. Fear, confusion, anger, and something else. Recognition. "Done!" Omar shouted, securing the device to the neural junction. "Detonator active, 30 seconds. "Fall back to the entrance," Elena commanded, tearing herself free of the energy tendril with sheer force of will. They rushed to the sealed membrane, now pulsing with angry red light. Holt pressed his harmonic device against it desperately, but the pattern had changed.
"It's not responding to the same frequency."
"Stand back," Elena ordered, drawing her sidearm. She fired a concentrated pulse at the membrane's center, creating a small rupture that immediately began to heal.
"Again!" Omar urged. "All of us together!"
The three officers fired simultaneously, their combined weapons creating a hole large enough to squeeze through. They tumbled into the outer passage where the security team waited in defensive formation, surrounded by disabled defensive orbs. "The device is placed," Elena reported breathlessly. "Detonation in 15 seconds. Move!" The team sprinted back through the golden conduit, the ship's environment now in clear distress around them. The walls contracted violently, bioluminescence flaring in warning patterns as alarms, felt rather than heard, resonated through the structure. 10 seconds, Omar counted down as they ran. 9, 8. They reached the junction chamber, now flooding with defensive constructs streaming toward the biocore. 7, 6. "Alternative route," Elena shouted, pointing to a smaller passage. "That way." 5, 4. The team diverted, pushing through the narrower conduit as the countdown continued. 3, 2. "Brace yourselves," Elena ordered. 1. The detonation wasn't an explosion, but a wave, a pulse of counter-resonance that swept through the living ship like a tsunami. The walls around them convulsed, bioluminescence flickering wildly before dimming to a dull glow. The defensive constructs simply dropped, their animating energy disrupted. For several seconds, the team huddled in place, uncertain what would follow. Then, gradually, they became aware of a change. The ship was still alive, but dormant, like an organism in deep hibernation. "It worked," Holt confirmed, checking a scanner. "The disruptor has temporarily severed the connection between the biocore and the rest of the ship, and based on these readings, the effect is propagating throughout the fleet." "How long will it last?" Elena asked, already moving the team toward their entry point. 30 minutes, perhaps longer. The Allurians will be in disarray, unable to coordinate their forces. "Then we have 30 minutes to evacuate Titan Base and get the hell out of here," Elena concluded. "Move out." The return journey through the dormant ship was eerily quiet. Passages that had pulsed with life now lay still. The bioluminescence reduced to a faint background glow. They encountered no further resistance, the ship's defensive measures as incapacitated as its control systems. At the entry point, they found their shuttle untouched, still securely attached to the hull. Ensign DeVoe had maintained position as ordered, though the strain of waiting alone was evident in his tense posture. "Status?" Elena asked as they boarded. "All quiet, Commodore," DeVoe reported. "But you should see what's happening out there." Through the viewports, they witnessed the results of their mission. The Allurian fleet hung motionless in Titan's orbit, each vessel darkened and drifting. The smaller ships that had been attacking the base had simply stopped, their weapons silent. "Vanguard reports all Allurian vessels have ceased operations," DeVoe added. "Titan Base has begun evacuation procedures, first transports already away." Elena felt a surge of relief. "Take us home, Ensign. Mission accomplished." As the shuttle detached from the Dreadnought's hull and set course for the Vanguard, Elena gazed back at the massive alien vessel. Despite everything, she couldn't help feeling a twinge of regret. The Illurians were extraordinary beings who had evolved a collective existence beyond human comprehension. In another reality, first contact might have led to exchange rather than conflict. "You're thinking they're not so different from us," Omar said quietly, taking the seat beside her. "Aren't they? They protect their territory, expand their influence, react with fear to the unknown." Elena sighed. "We call it war when they do it, but exploration when we do the same." "They fired first," Omar reminded her. "They declared their intentions quite clearly." "Yes, but I wonder what we might have lost in translation." The shuttle docked with the Vanguard, where Lieutenant Kwan waited to greet them with rare emotion on her face. "Commodore, it worked. The entire Illurian fleet is incapacitated. Titan Base reports 60% of personnel already evacuated, with the remainder boarding transports now." "Casualties?" Elena asked, as they moved quickly toward the bridge. Kwan's expression sobered. 27 confirmed dead at the base, 42 injured. But without your action, it would have been total loss. On the bridge, the main view screen showed the evacuation in progress, a stream of transport vessels departing Titan's surface toward the waiting Earth fleet that had arrived during their mission. The reinforcement vessels had appeared minutes after the Illurian fleet was disabled, as if they had been waiting just beyond sensor range. "Convenient timing," Elena observed dryly. "Admiral Park's flagship is requesting communication," reported the communications officer. "Put him through!" The Admiral's face appeared on screen, his expression unreadable. "Commodore Reyes, I see you've disobeyed orders again, but with unexpected results. The Illurian fleet has been temporarily disabled, sir," Elena reported formally. "Titan Base evacuation is proceeding. I recommend immediate withdrawal of all Earth forces, while we have the advantage." "Already underway, Commodore. The diplomatic team will handle further communication with the Illurians, from a safe distance." Park paused. "Your actions were reckless and insubordinate." "Yes, sir." "And they saved over 200 lives." Another pause. "Report to my flagship once evacuation is complete. We have much to discuss regarding your future in the fleet." The communication ended, leaving Elena standing before her crew, exhaustion finally catching up with her. "All departments, prepare for departure," she ordered. "As soon as the last transport is clear, set course for the Earth fleet's position." "And the Illurians?" Kwan asked. Elena gazed at the dormant dreadnought on the view screen. "We've bought time, not victory. When they recover, and they will, we need to be ready with something better than weapons. Dr. Holt, I want you working with the diplomatic team. The disruptor technology proves we can communicate with them on a fundamental level. Perhaps next time, we can do so without causing pain." "I'll begin preparations immediately," Holt agreed. As her officers dispersed to their duties, Elena remained on the bridge, watching the final evacuation transports departing Titan. The base that had been humanity's furthest outpost was now abandoned, its lights going dark one by one. Omar joined her at the viewport. "Penny, for your thoughts, Commodore?" She smiled tiredly at her brother. "Just thinking about their message. You chose war with humanity. Good luck surviving." "Turns out we're pretty good at surviving," Omar observed. "Yes, but is that enough?" Elena watched as the last transport cleared Titan's atmosphere. "Survival at any cost? I wonder what we become in the process." "That," Omar said quietly, "is what separates us from them. The fact that we ask the question at all." The Vanguard's engines hummed to life, carrying them away from Titan and the dormant Illurian fleet. Behind them, Saturn's rings gleamed in the distance, beautiful and oblivious to the clash of civilizations that had occurred in their shadow. Ahead lay uncertainty, disciplinary action for Elena, diplomatic challenges for humanity, and the knowledge that the Elurians would eventually recover. But they had survived. For today, that would have to be enough. 3 weeks later, Elena stood at attention in the observation lounge of Earth Command Headquarters, gazing at the blue-green marble of Earth beyond the reinforced windows. Behind her, the disciplinary board had assembled, 5 admirals who would decide her fate. Admiral Park entered last, nodding for her to be seated. Commodore Reyes, this board has reviewed your actions at Titan, including your multiple instances of insubordination and direct violation of orders. Yes, Admiral, Elena replied, her voice steady despite the exhaustion of the past weeks. The Vanguard had returned to Earth orbit just days ago, after ensuring all Titan-based personnel were safely delivered to Jupiter Way Station. Your decisions placed your ship, your crew, and potentially Earth itself at risk. Park continued, his tone formal, but lacking the anger Elena had expected. You engaged an unknown alien force without authorization, executed a high-risk boarding mission without proper planning, and deployed an untested weapon system developed outside of protocol. I accept full responsibility for those actions, Admiral. Park exchanged glances with the other board members before continuing. Dr. Holt has provided extensive data on the Elurian bioresonance technology. Based on his analysis, we now understand that your unorthodox approach may have been our only viable option given the time constraints. Elena blinked, surprised by this assessment. Furthermore, Park added, the diplomatic team has established limited communication with the Elurians using modified versions of Dr. Holt's translation algorithms. It appears their initial message was indeed a mistranslation. A mistranslation, sir? Admiral Park activated a holographic display showing complex waveforms. The phrase, "You chose war with humanity," was actually closer to, "Your kind has warred against us before." Their records indicate previous contact with humanoid species from other systems, species that apparently reacted violently to Elurian attempts at assimilation. They thought we were the same species, Elena realized. They attacked preemptively based on past experience. Correct. Your actions, while insubordinate, provided crucial intelligence that has enabled meaningful dialogue. Park deactivated the display. Which brings us to the matter of your future in the fleet. Elena straightened, prepared for the worst. Court-martial was the minimum she expected. Dishonorable discharge seemed more likely. This board has decided that your rank of Commodore will be suspended for a period of 6 months, during which time you will serve as special liaison to the Elurian Diplomatic Initiative. Sir, Elena couldn't hide her confusion. A rare smile crossed Park's face. You broke first contact protocols, Commodore. It seems fitting that you help establish new ones. Your understanding of Elurian capabilities and psychology is unique, as is your creative approach to problem-solving. And after 6 months? Reinstatement to full rank and reassignment, pending review. Park stood, signaling the other admirals to do the same. Consider yourself fortunate, Reyes. The President herself intervened on your behalf. Saving 200 colonists carries political weight, even against military protocol. The admirals filed out, leaving Elena alone with Park. Off the record, he said quietly. I would have done the same in your position. But next time, try to find a way that doesn't involve directly contradicting your superior officers. I'll bear that in mind, Admiral. Park nodded briskly. Report to the diplomatic offices tomorrow at 0800. The Elurians have proposed a meeting on neutral ground. You'll be heading the advance team. When he had gone, Elena remained at the viewport, staring at the planet below. 6 months ago, humanity had believed itself alone in the universe. Now, they faced an ancient interstellar civilization with technology far beyond their own. A civilization they had very nearly gone to war with. The door opened behind her. I heard the good news, came Omar's voice. Elena turned to her brother with a tired smile. Demotion and reassignment? Some would call that punishment. Better than a court-martial. Omar joined her at the viewport. Dr. Holt sends his regards. He's been recruited by the Xenobiology Division to continue studying the Allurian biological technology. And you? Still rebuilding engines on the Vanguard? Omar shook his head. Temporary reassignment. I'll be joining your diplomatic team as technical advisor. Someone needs to make sure your translators don't accidentally declare war again. Elena laughed for what felt like the first time in weeks. I'm glad. I wouldn't want to face the Allurians without my lucky charm. About that. Omar's expression grew serious. The diplomatic team received new communication from the Allurian Collective. They're evolving their perspective on humanity. Meaning? Their exact message was, "You survived. Perhaps we chose poorly." Omar grinned. I think that's Allurian for let's talk. Elena turned back to the viewport, Earth's blue expanse reflecting in her eyes. Somewhere out there, across vast interstellar distances, the Allurian Collective was reassessing its understanding of humanity, just as humanity was reassessing its place in the cosmos. We survived, she agreed quietly. Now comes the hard part, learning to live with what we've discovered, both about them and about ourselves. As they stood in companionable silence, a notification appeared on the display panel beside them. The first telemetry from probes sent through the Allurian corridor with permission. New stars, new worlds, new possibilities opening before humanity. They had survived first contact, despite everything. And in that survival lay hope for what might come next. Not just continued existence, but perhaps, someday, understanding. In the coming months, Elena would face the Allurian representatives across diplomatic tables rather than battlefields. She would learn their complex language of bioresonance and neural harmonics. She would discover that their assimilation of other species was not enslavement as humans understood it, but a form of symbiosis that preserved individual awareness within the greater collective, a concept both terrifying and fascinating to human sensibilities. And sometimes, in the quiet moments between negotiations, she would remember standing in the cathedral-like chamber of the Allurian Biocore, witnessing the beautiful and alien consciousness that had nearly become humanity's greatest enemy. You chose war with humanity, they had said. Good luck surviving. In the end, it wasn't luck that had saved them, but the very qualities that made them human: ingenuity, courage, and the capacity to question their own assumptions. To survive was essential, but to understand was vital. The stars awaited, and humanity, having faced its first true test among them, had proven itself ready for whatever came next.